You heard it right. Elementary classrooms should not be less than 60 students. Prove me wrong.
The Christian Principles Podcast comes to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation, but please bear in mind the thoughts and opinions of the hosts are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation.
Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockoll. We have exciting content today. Matt, you had referred to some content fatigue recently. So we redoubled some efforts. We went back to, you told me to go back to some of the beginning. So I have.
So I have.
So we went back to.
Yeah, it's time. Shake it up.
Yeah,
Shake it up.
We went back to where we started. And if you've been with us for a while, you remember that we said we're going to probe those think tanks. We're going to probe those group spaces where Christian school administrators congregate. And there's not too many of them. There's only a couple of them out there that we're aware of, really. And one of those is the Facebook group Christian School Administrator Think Tank. And so we received from that review a question from a peer, which said, what is your average class size K-12? And at what point do you have an aide? So we're going to launch off that with a discussion today concerning, we were going to keep it limited to elementary size, but because we do have a good plan and a lot of things coming up for the season, we are going to go ahead and move forward with the entire review of the best class sizes in our humble opinions. Knowing that neither would the 60, as Matt just spoke of, in an elementary classroom be appropriate, nor would a 1-to-1 be appropriate necessarily. So let's go. Let's bark up that tree. Let's run down that road. Let's have fun with that today. Matt, you had an interesting hook to start with. Do you have further thoughts on what it is that you said and I could not get past?
What does the kids say these days?
What's the kids say these days?
The rage baiting, right?
Oh. I thought you were going to say 6, 7, 6,
no, I wasn't going to say that. But I was going to say, yeah. If I were to even hint at we're going to go over 20 students in some of my elementary classrooms, I would have a riot on my hands. So it's kind of one of those things. Let's poke that thing and see what it
shake that bush
shakes up.
Listen, yeah. You've already thrown your hat over the fence. You said no more than 20 per classroom is where you would be.
I mean, there's going to be some caveats to that, but yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's talk through the caveats. Let's talk through the original. Yeah. Let's talk through the total. Just to put numbers out there for those of you who are listening and you came in and you want to hear our primary thoughts immediately. Here's my primary thought, 15. I fully expect that a classroom teacher, a homeroom teacher worth his or her salt would be in heaven with 15 students. And I would say that from first grade through 12th grade, 15 students, what a lovely place to be.
It's a comfy number.
Absolutely. Beautiful number. For the kindergarten teacher, perhaps 10. Maybe 10 is more appropriate, but really, to be honest, I'd still be fine with 15, but maybe 10. Mm-hmm. And then pre-K, of course, is going to have demands or, relative demands based on where you happen to be. But we're going to stick with the K through 12. So if we're thinking somewhere just south of 15 and then 15 from first and up for me, I'm loving those numbers. Matt, where are you at on that?
Yeah, I would agree. The general rule of thumb that I always go by is 10-to-1. So 10 students every teacher, should be basically your bare bones is the way I think of it. If I ever have a class, and pray the Lord will never put me in this position, but if I have a classroom that's less than 10, you're now entering into the question of, are these kids paying for that teacher? Or are they paying for the program? I mean, obviously a teacher is going to be able to handle less than that. Mm-hmm. And I know some of our Christian schools, I mean, that's where they are, and they're combining 2 classes, or they're combining even 3 classes into one classroom. So, if I am thinking kind of just beyond the grade level, like if I can have 15, as you said, on one grade level, beautiful thing. But if you're going to have to, perhaps throw grade levels together, I would still kind of use that as the guiding mark, to 15, 20. If we're putting three classes together, which is again not ideal, but it's still within that range,
Mhm.
then it's workable, it's doable. And that's before we even go down the road of including aides or, assistants. We're one homeroom teacher with 15 students is a comfortable thing.
And we should say should be comfortable. If you have a teacher, for whatever
Yeah,
reason, can't handle 15 students,
right.
perhaps be looking for a different teacher, or they need to explain to you why in the world that is they can't handle 15. Because to be honest, that's an idea, that's a somewhat idyllic for me.
Yeah,
But that does not mean that's where I wouldn't ask a teacher to cover more than. Um, let's take this away from us though, and let's take it to where we live. We are in Wycomico County, Maryland, and a report here from this is a report from a year ago, but the report from a year ago would note that in Wycomico County, Maryland, of course, districts are always struggling with redistricting or making some state, and I appreciate this, trying to make the place most appropriate for the number of students they have to deal with. And the quote from the article is, a number of schools and WCPS officials saying are well over capacity. We have one school that's on 150% of the state rated capacity. There are some others at over 100% as well, which by the way, these these capacities and these guidelines and these laws that are constructed, it's very interesting to me how often we are able to overrun or just make a change or get a waiver or whatever it happens to be, but I digress. With some of our kindergarten classrooms being consistently 26 to 30 students. So here is a note from a Dr. Frederick Briggs. He is the Chief Academic Officer of Wycomico County Public Schools, and he notes 26 to 30 kindergarten students. Mac, just react to that, 26 to 30 kindergarten students in a classroom. We're not talking about the number of teachers in that room. I'm talking
right.
about 26 to 30 students in that room. And again, I'm not making a comment on the ratio of student teacher ratio.
Yeah, yeah. No, when you have, and you said kindergarten, so
Kindergarten. Mm-hmm.
as soon as you go above what we've mentioned, that 15 marker, I have to question if students are getting equal attention. I just know how quickly things can go downhill with kindergartners because one student starts doing this and then the other starts doing it. So when you get 20 and above, that is a lot to handle. Now, granted, you could be the best classroom manager and just have all of those 30 kids at your fingertips, which that's what I think it takes. It takes a super master teacher that I have my doubts. The capability, like, unless you possess superhero powers, I feel like that's where you'd have to be in order to engage. And that's the word I think about, the engagement of those 30 kindergartners.
The engagement, again, 26 to 30 is where some of these classrooms were, which means that's not all the classrooms, but that's where these classrooms were.
Right.
26 to 30. If I'm thinking of a 25 by 25 classroom, I know I can put 20 kids in that classroom with a teacher's desk and space to move and other things rather comfortably. But 26 to 30. And again, I don't want to put my understanding of the buildings I have been in on the public schools around us, because those classrooms, for the most part, are going to be larger. They're going to be,
Yeah.
dare I say, nicer facilities at some point. They're at least they're probably more recently created in some cases. But
Yeah, they're probably also lacking, like, they probably don't have desks. They're probably doing tables. They're probably, even those
could
are
be,
probably minimum, so it's
hmm
probably a lot of floor time.
could
So,
be, yeah.
even that is, and I would imagine if I were running that classroom that those 30 kids are, in three different groups of 10.
Potted up,
Yeah.
grouped up. So we have that classroom is going to be a big classroom. And then
Mhm.
I think about, let's say I have what I would consider to be an appropriate number of teachers, of 3 teachers in that room with teachers' desk and teacher spaces, and then the cubbies and all the rest of it. Like, we're just talking about a very we're talking about a lot of bodies in a room.
Mhm.
The ambient noise will be a lot. Let's keep going here. But according to the Maryland State Department of Education, class size in Maryland public schools, school year 22-23. So again, this is going back a bit. Sorry about that. But the average elementary class size was 20.8 students. Now, here's the thing though. During that same time frame in Wycomico County, the average size was 28.2. So where we are, 28.2. Now, it says further in Caroline, Dorchester, Talbot, Somerset, which of course surround Wycomico, the report was that there were no elementary classes with more than 30 students. However, 20% of Wycomico County elementary classes had more than 30 students. So we're looking at some research around us, and this study notes that Maryland Public School study previously of the average size of a classroom being 20.8 students. So when you hear that average of 20.8 students, I gotta ask, does that scare you at all, or what are your reactions to 20.8 students? I will give mine first. When I hear 20.8 students, that doesn't really scare me. I believe that a competent first through 12th grade teacher should be able to facilitate 20 to 21 students, and I'll say it, on his or her own. They should be able to do it on
Mhm.
his or her own. Now,
Mhm.
granted, we're going to have lots of discussions moving forward, and I know you have a formula for this and otherwise of the quote unquote average or normal student versus the student who's going to require more attention. And whereas I absolutely would be asking more of those teachers the higher they go. And the lower they go, I'm thinking a lot more about aides and things like that. But
Mhm.
again, competently speaking, could I run a school that had 20 students and each of the grades moving from first through 12th? I would say yes. And I would make every argument that is not necessarily an inappropriate number of students, allowing that most of these, if not all these students, are a normal, what would receive the normal amount of funding in a public school, or a normal student, not demanding large amount of special needs servicing outside of that. A thought for you on the 20.8 students in Maryland as the average size. Not Wycomico, because it was 28.2, of course, which is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot, but go ahead.
No, I agree with you. It's a lower number just because the bodies get bigger. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure that's the only reason that number goes down. You potentially could say that the their the student's ability to self manage,
Absolutely.
improves as well. So
Mhm.
so you can increase that number. But um, when when considering capacity for the older elementary students, and I really start thinking about this around third grade. So kindergarten, first grade, second grade, primary levels. I kind of generally use the same rule of thumb with kindergarten. It does get elevated a bit, but um, is I'm looking at capacity number one because of body count. How many kids can I squish into this room? And is my teacher capable of leading? But as you were hinting at, that idea of, is this student going to require more of the teacher's time? And if that's the case, I can't look at that student as one student. I need to be thinking of
Uh-huh.
that student as more, because I could have two groups of 15 students, like we said, our perfect number. One acts like 15 or even less students, whereas the other one could feel like 30 plus with 15. It all very much does depend on those students, where they're at, the attention that they need. So, it takes some time to deduce all of that. But yeah, before even considering aids, that is the thing that I look at with um with the capacity number, and that number is fine. I think it's fine. I think generally speaking, I've seen this a couple different places. I can't point to one place in particular, that it isn't until you get to about 24, 25 students that you start considering an aid,
An aid. Mhm.
whether it be part-time or full-time.
Sure. And again, completely depend on what grade points we're talking about here, but
Yeah, right.
I like that we've actually provided numbers so far in this short review. I like to give you
Okay.
numbers. To throw out another number at you from, again, we're going to stick around here in Maryland where we are, but COMAR is our Code of Maryland Regulations, and it would cite that for 5-year-olds and older in a childcare setting, we're looking at one adult to 15 children with a max of 30 kids per room. Now, there's no statewide mandate in Maryland concerning class sizes. We do have the tracking of average class sizes, like we've noted before. It depends on the county. St. Mary's uses a 25 students per classroom in grades 6 through 8 unit. Um, some special eds 1 to 7, some's 1 to 10. We could keep going with numbers, but let's go further to what Matt had just talked about. Now we're going to go from a standard of we're going to say normal students to a standard of some need students sprinkled in there. I, Again, I'm going to go back and say at 15 students, 15 to 20 students now, I'll open that up, and I'm going to move from I'm going to go up to middle school through high school. I'll say fifth grade, I'll say fifth to 12th grade. If fifth graders through 12th graders have a need student that is not a severe need student, but I'll even go to you, my brother and sister principals, Christian school principals here, and say the sort of students that we routinely see come into our schools, even if they did have an IEP or a 503 or something, or 504 plan, 504 plan.
Yeah.
We're a 501c3 as a 504 plan. But
504
even
plan.
if they did have a plan with them, we would believe that our everyday classroom could handle that. I'm thinking of those sorts of students now. Even even at the 15 to 1 and up to the 20 to 1, being that homeroom teacher in 5th through 12th grade, even with a couple of those need students sprinkled in, I'm still thinking those teachers should be able to handle. Idyllic? No. Should I be able to expect them to handle it? Absolutely. I still do think that. Now, below 5th grade, and we're talking, let's go down to, you said the primaries, and we're talking about where some of those needs are beginning to develop. And we are so hugely concerned with reading. You know, we want to see reading coming out of pre-K, let alone
Mhm.
coming out of K-5. You know, we want to see that occur so early on. Yet we hear of peers that are in 4th grade and not reading yet, and the sad situation that is. So we want to really focus on making sure literacy is achieved as early as possible, and pushing even end of K-5 literacy for all those who come to us. I'm far more likely to offer aids in those settings, and I'm far more quick to do so. And really, I have to keep an eye on the budget, but with even less of an eye towards like a 4th grade teacher telling me, well, I don't have any time, and she's got 3 aides, and I have just as many kids as her. At that point, I am more likely to go to bat for, I know what I'm doing. You need to keep your eyes on your own business, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, because I am hugely concerned with those students who are just coming into understanding of what their needs might happen to be, and because of the literacy of themselves and those around them.
Yeah.
I have to protect that.
A big thing to consider is, if before we even, like we said, we're not going down necessarily establishing special ed programs. Before we even get to that point, and even before putting a full-time aide in the classroom all the time, do you have support available? And that's where you can have the flex aides, the aides that
Mhm.
go from classroom to classroom. You have the aides that would pull for one-on-one. I know when I'm down in K4, it's a little bit of a different challenge because the way I think of it a little bit more logistically than I do academically with child care like environments, because you could have a good ratio of 10 to 1, we'll just say. But as soon as it is so quick in kindergarten and K4 to flip over to a one-to-one situation. You know,
Mhm.
there's
Sure.
this thing going on, and the teacher has give this student their entire a- attention,
Mhm.
and so you have your aid, your support there to now. Okay, you're over the whole class, but then that one gets to a one-on-one. So that is very likely. So that's you're dropping your ratio because of the likelihood of one child needing your full attention, and that happening all over the place. Same thing, kindergarten, is, I wouldn't say necessarily as equal to that, but it is still, they're still developing in that area. Um, so yeah, as we get up to high school and you're dealing with some accommodations, teachers have to be understanding and willing to accommodate,
Mhm.
especially within that group. I mean, if we're dealing with a class size of 40, in a ninth grade classroom, like, yeah, I don't want the teacher to have to deal with the things that are going to come up frequently throughout that class. So you have somebody, a teacher's aide that's running around, to assist where needed, maybe. But with 20, even if it is like, oh, we've got a test, and so I've sent your test to the test coordinator, the test support person, so you can go take your test over there. Like, totally reasonable, to be able to still handle all of that, while, that's where, when my classes, my high school secondary classes are getting up to that 15 number, I have to make sure that there is a resource, not per classroom, but a resource that is available, so that the teachers can, when needed, use that resource. And it's not going to be as frequent because they are older. They are able to self-manage a whole lot better than the lower ones can. And even, hopefully, they've been in your school all throughout, so they know the drill.
Mhm.
When it comes to a test time, I'm going to go over here,
Yeah.
or whenever it's my math class, I'm going to a different place than the rest of my class, whatever it is. But they've got the rhythm.
They got the rhythm. They got the rhyme. Come on, boys. It's bobsled time. You know what else we got a resource? You talk about resources here and bringing resources to bear and making sure that we are knowledgeable of them. Let's be knowledgeable of the resources we have in partnership with us. First of all, the Herzog Foundation. The Herzog Foundation has long been our partner, of course, and we are so thankful for them. But I wanted to note to you that recently the Herzog Foundation's Schoolbox 2.0 came out, and I was able actually to send this to a friend, send this over to someone who started his school, I believe, would it be 3 or 4 years ago now. And in this Schoolbox 2.0, they are calling for those who have not started their school, or who have even recently started their school, because this Schoolbox 2.0, first of all, is free. Just remember that. If you want to start a Christian school, or you haven't yet, you're thinking about starting a Christian school, make sure you get a hold of Schoolbox 2.0, because it is free. It's there for Christian schools, it's there for micro schools, it's there for homeschool co-ops. It's got free guides. It'll come with mentorship and training from everything from curriculum to leadership. It's through the Herzog Foundation, so you can know that it is a Christ-centered. It's Christ-centered in all that it's doing, and it is looking to see Christian education flourish in the U.S. There's an 8-step guide to structuring a school if you haven't, or even if you have and you're like, hey, I wonder if we did this right, or I'm missing something. Going back and checking on what they would suggest. There's customization available for the different school you are trying to create. Again, we know that mentorship, but those mentor networks are just amazing, and they're exciting to see people be able to dig into and learn more about. And then, of course, other resources. And some of the ones that I've seen and been most moved by were just the hands-on. This is what a teacher contract looks like. This is what a handbook looks like. This is what you should see in a administrative manual that you are creating. So for all of that, just like most of the rest of what the Herzog offers, for free, there to support you. But not only that, you got to make sure that one of the resources you have is a solid school information system. Matt, tell us more about that.
If your school needs a management system that's as practical as it is affordable, GradeLink is the way to go. It's reliable, straightforward, and it won't overwhelm you with complexity or cost. Just go to cpp.gradelink.com to see how it can make your school's life easier.
Okay, so coming back in now, we need to make sure that we've talked not only about the bottom side, we're going to talk about the top side. Well, where is the cap for you? I had a situation where I was challenged to go ahead and put down, these are our idyllic situations, but here's our top number. We won't go past. So it was a soft cap, and then there was a hard cap number. And I'll tell you, our soft cap number was through the lower schools, 20 was going to be our soft cap. And our hard cap was, I believe, 22 or 23 was the hard cap. And we'd only move from 20 to 23 if we had that teacher's blessing. So that was, we actually did leave that up to the teacher, which I wouldn't suggest everybody doing that, but we did heavily weigh the teacher's comments in that makeup when we did so. Nat, have you, and again, I want to be clear, that was for K5 through really the need there was through like 5th grade. Above that, below that we had strict restrictions, and then above that we didn't really, we weren't coming into contact with those caps. But between those situations, between those, K5 through I should say 1st grade through 5th grade, we absolutely were coming into contact with, okay, we have to have a top side cutoff with who we know we can staff and what we know we can do. Matt, do you have a top side cutoff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of considerations. I will say that it has morphed over the
Mm-hmm.
past several years, um, because the cap literally was a physical cap. Like, I cannot physically fit any more kids into this classroom,
We've done the
and I
sardining.
feel like that is very common for private Christian schools, because we'll not necessarily that we'll take who we can get. It's not so much that,
Sure.
it's just it's a ministry. You have all these things that you take into consideration, and so if somebody wants to come to our school that fits our admissions requirements, they should come. And so there's a physical cap. I cannot physically put more kids in this classroom. So yeah, I hope that we never really get to that cap number. And it is different as we mentioned earlier. When the bodies get bigger, the number gets smaller. Um, we also in secondary will often still do a couple classes where we combine the two grades. So that's another factor to take into consideration, because if I have a 6th grade that is 18 students and they're about to go into a 7th grade, 8th grade situation where they're both at 18, like I've got to be aware of that. And am I are my facilities capable of having 36 kids in one room?
Mm-hmm.
Chances are probably not. Um, so there's that to take into consideration. But when it just comes to a policy per class room with one homeroom teacher, um, that 20, as you were saying, is a soft cap. It's a pretty hard cap for me, because I take into consider that this student is one physically, but there's another half, possibly even another full student when it comes to their needs
Hmm.
or their attention. I may only have 15 or maybe even 13 students in the classroom, but they're gonna play out as a 17, 18 student class. So I do take that into consideration too. But 20 does tend to be that rather hard cap for me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that money morphs things as well, because as you mentioned, you have the 13 that actually are 17, but you're only getting paid for the 13 of them. You're not getting
Right.
paid for the 17. So that might be something that you have to consider in your tuition makeup. If that's actually what you're going to do, there's going to be an alternative tuition. There's going to be an alternative tuition
Yeah.
that student should be asked to pay if they're going to take up that amount of time, energy, and effort, and seats if there happen to be a wait list and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
And that's where I tend to focus a lot more on the minimum than I do
mhm,
on the max, because um, what's it gonna take to A, run this classroom, B, pay for this teacher, and then you are very quickly getting to pay for a support as
mhm.
well. And that's where the minimum is not very far away from the max. So it is a very, very close margin that you're dialing in.
Well, we've dialed in some things. Tell us where we got wrong. Tell us what you would do. Tell us what we need to do or need to reconsider in this episode or episodes coming up. In the meantime, let's go ahead and move on to our Christian Administrator Spotlight, which today is going out to Mr. Lance List. Mr. Lance List of Temple Baptist School Now get this, we already had a couple cool road names, but this is another cool road name. Drainsville. Matt, I grew up in Drainsville. They're in Herndon. They're in Herndon, Virginia. Grew up in
Mm.
Drainsville. Matt's going to pray for you today, Lance. Now, Lance has been at Temple Baptist School since January 2023, and he has been able to oversee what seems to be a relatively um, high achieving, but and also I like the makeup of the leadership. Got some high school supervision going on. Have a couple department heads. It looks like there is a solid team around him, and that's always such a blessing to see. So Matt's going to pray for you now, Lance. Thank you for all that you do there at Temple Baptist.
All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for Lance and his leadership there at Temple. And I just pray that you would continue to guide him as he has to make decisions, especially when considering enrollment and best serving his families, his students, his teachers. I just pray that you would just continue to guide and direct, bless in that ministry, be with him personally, whatever challenges or difficulties he may be facing, that you would give him the resources he needs, the support, encouragement to follow you and to bring you glory through his service at Temple. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Hey everybody, we are coming into the Christmas time. We want to make sure that we say Merry Christmas to you, and we ask that you would let us know if there's anything we can do to be a blessing to you in this season. And as we ask you, please know that there is something you can do to be a blessing to us. Please share us. Please make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button wherever you are. Please share us with a peer. Let your people know about what we are doing here on the Christian Principles Podcast. It is interesting to see that in this wintertime, our administrators are busy because we don't see as many hits and follows as we otherwise would throughout the year, but we get it. We get it. So please let us know. Please hit that follow button. Please make sure you are at least letting this run in the background somewhere. We'd appreciate it. Pass this on to a peer. Thanks for growing with us today.
We want to thank you for listening. We're honored that you spend this time with us each week. Our heart is to bring you practical conversations and resources that really serve you as a Christian school leader. One of the best ways you can help us spread the word is by leaving us a review and sharing the podcast with other Christian school principals you're connected with. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation and share any posts that resonate with you. Every share makes a difference in helping more leaders find encouragement and practical tools. And remember, the podcast is just one way we help. We also love serving schools through speaking and workshops. Our keynotes and sessions are designed to give you actionable strategies you can take back to your team and implement right away. If you'd like more details, just send us an email at info@christianprinciplespodcast.com. We'd love to connect. Until next time, thanks for joining us on the Christian Principles Podcast.